But the White House ordered the National Guard into Los Angeles to confront demonstrators protesting ICE raids in L.A. And border czar Tom Homan claims that even California's elected officials need to step aside. Take a look.
If you stand in the way of your enforcement operations, you could be subject potentially to arrest. Are you saying that about Mayor Bass and Governor Newsom? Are they at risk of being arrested?
I'll say it about anybody.
Are you prepared to invoke the Insurrection Act?
Depends on whether or not there's an insurrection.
Do you believe there is, sir?
No, but you have violent people, and we're not going to let them get away with it. And there was a lot of violence, and it could have gotten much worse. And you have an incompetent governor.
Come after me, arrest me. Let's just get it over with. Tough guy. You're creating the conditions that you claim you're solving, and you're not. And you're putting real people's lives at risk.
When you run armored caravans through our streets, you cause fear and you cause panic. And deploying federalized troops is a dangerous escalation. It's not about public safety. There's clearly no plan, and there is clearly no policy.
Yeah, the Defense Department has the U.S. Marines on high alert right now. Now, is it warranted, or does this sort of escalate the situation? I mean, whatever happened to states' rights? I thought that was what you do, because you tell the state, this is what we're thinking of doing. You don't just send people in. You don't just send troops in. But what do I know? I've never run a state. But I don't really, when you come in and when you go into the donut shop to look for people and you're dressed in tactical gear, you're creating an issue. You're creating a problem. You want people to come, you've scared them. Even when people are supposed to be there, when they come to talk to the judge, you're arresting them right after. What is going on here?
I think what really matters from sort of a long view here is the fact that he is militarizing and deploying the Guard for the purpose of policing Americans' protest activity, right? Our freedom of speech, our freedom of assembly. And there's a very big, stark demarcation between military troops and law enforcement, public law enforcement, civilian law enforcement.
Right.
And you are an army turned inside to police its citizens can cause chaos, fascism. And so I think that's the way— Civil war. Yeah. I think that's the way we need to look at it, because deploying the National Guard is supposed to be a last resort. But what this president is doing is that he's saying he's going to deploy them anywhere in this country where there is protests. So that is certainly not a last resort use of military troops. And one thing that I'll finally say is that there was some really important recent congressional testimony in December, and it was from retired Major General Randy Manner. And he said members of the military are not trained in civilian law enforcement because it's not a military function. So military involvement in mass deportation efforts would undermine the public trust in our veterans, in our armed forces. So it is escalating this situation.
And we need to know that the last time a president circumvented a state governor and sent in the National Guard without the governor requesting it was in 1965, when Lyndon Johnson sent in the National Guard to protect protesters who were civil rights protesters in Alabama, where there was that racist government. Today, he is sending in the National Guard to attack the protesters who are there. And look, this for me hits really close. I'm Latino, I'm an immigrant. These are my people who are getting dragged through the streets. I want to say to the Latino community, we must be strategic. We must be nonviolent. We have the right to protest. We are Americans. This is our country. We have the right to free speech, but we cannot fall into the trap that Donald Trump is setting of wanting to turn this into violent protests and distract from his feud with Elon Musk, distract from the parade that he's throwing himself for his birthday, distract from the chaos of his tariffs. And we have to show up with American flags, because we're not invaders. We are Americans. And so many of the people that are getting detained are here under some legality. So why are people protesting? People are protesting because ICE showed up, masked, right? The people who didn't want to wear masks during a pandemic really want to wear a lot of masks now that they are dragging women through the streets. And the president who sat in the White House watching protests as the insurrectionists on January 6th attacked police and had no issue with it, and the first thing he did was pardon 1,500 insurrectionists, now has a problem with these protesters who are protesting against the illegal, unconstitutional, without due process detainments that are going on of folks showing up at immigration court who are then disappeared into the basement of a federal building. I mean, it's inhumane.
I strongly agree with something that Sunny said, which is I virtually never agree with the use of the National Guard on American streets unless it is absolutely needed to quell civil unrest and to protect the citizens of this country, because it's very important that we know the National Guard is not Republicans, it's not Democrats, it is Americans who set aside their politics and said that they're going to show up and do those jobs. A lot of DHS and ICE enforcement, by the way, are Democrats, maybe are Republicans. They are there to serve the country, the Constitution, not to answer to whoever their political figure that they might follow is. And what I see here is there was a volatile situation, and Donald Trump knew that by deploying the National Guard, rather than working with local law enforcement, rather than working with the governor and saying, hey, you've got till midnight tonight to get these protests under control, it was lighting a match on a tinderbox. But what I'll say is this, no one has a right to assault police officers, to throw things at police officers, to damage property, to set fires to things. And how you make your voice heard absolutely matters in this country. So this past weekend, friends of mine with Pod Save America and the Bulwark held a fundraiser timed with Pride in D.C. that was meant to raise money for immigration attorneys to help migrants in this country who feel like they need help getting the due process that they're entitled to. That is what you do. You don't throw things at cops or the National Guard. You don't set things on fire because it is so counterproductive to the very cause that you're advocating for.
Well, and it feeds into what he wanted to do. What he wants to do is he wants to create a scene. He wants to say, I was justified in sending in the National Guard because look at how violent these protesters are, which they were not until this was exacerbated. But I think he has a strategy here. He is losing support in every area. Inflation, the economy, tariffs, foreign policy. His ratings are dropping
Even
like
on immigration,
like rocks. But there's one catch.
Is it like under 30%?
Current support right now, though, is that 66% of the American public actually thinks it is crime enough to be undocumented and therefore deported.
That it's criminal to be undocumented?
Yes, it is not, you know how the disagreement was in the beginning, we were told it was going to be violent criminals, and I think everyone at this table would agree. Haul out the violent criminals, fine. But a very important distinction was 60% of the American public, 2/3 of independents, 90% of Republicans, and just a little under half of Democrats think the crime is in being undocumented.
Even if it's a civil offense.
Yes.
Yeah,
so what I'm
true.
saying is a massive amount of this country actually agrees with not how he's doing it, but with what he's doing.
So there's
I think
misinformation
the
out there.
strategy here is he's leaning into a scene right now, creating a bigger thing, because it is the one thing that he remains
Well, let's
supported in.
fix that right now,
Right.
because it is not illegal to be undocumented. It is not a crime to be undocumented.
But what they're
People
saying
are
is the
not
problem is
ille-
that they
No, but
are
I'm just saying
it's not
we need to put that information out
But
there.
I don't
it is
think-
a civil infraction.
Yeah, and I don't
not
think
criminal.
it's actually broadly a misunderstanding. I think that 60% of Americans believe it's a civil offense, and that if you come here and you're undocumented, that you should be deported.
But he's actually lost some points on the way he's handling immigration, not the border.
Absolutely.
And
But it's the
I
only
think a
place
lot
he
of
remains
But I
strong.
think a lot of Americans voted for him on immigration, thinking he was going to deport gang members and criminals. And he is deporting our friends, our neighbors, mothers, fathers, people working hard to make America actually function. And this is not what I think a lot of people voted
A
for.
lot of people don't, but it does.
Sarah's
what I'm
right
saying
about
is that
this.
these polls are consistently across the board showing there's more support than you would realize if you stay in your own bubble.
So let me throw this out to you, because something I'm interested in is I saw this list of countries that people can't come
like
in.
Haiti.
What did they do? And so I read some of the things. They said people have overstayed their welcome. That's why they're mad at people in Chad, because they tend to overstay their welcome. Well, I noticed that the man who attacked all those folks who were marching is from Egypt. He overstayed his welcome. Egypt is not on...
In Texas.
In Texas, the man who set folks on fire, the anti-Semitic man. none of the countries that are on this "you can't come in here" list seem to have done anything of note to keep them from coming in. So what is it? Are we about states' rights? Are we about keeping people in or out? Are you out because you got here in a different way because you fled the nation you live in? And maybe you were able to get in and now you've been trying to stay and doing it right and you're still getting thrown out. So what is it? Yeah. Is this just pure fascism that's happening? Is this is this what's going on?
Well, there are indications of fascism.
Well, it feels like if you're telling me as an American I can't protest, if you're telling me that I can't come here and try to stay because I'm afraid to go back to my country, that doesn't sound like America to me. That's not the America I know. Yeah, we want to get rid of the bad people. Everybody wants that. But we all have to recognize that some people got here in the strangest, craziest ways, but they're here for a reason. People don't just leave everything they know to come here just to do. I see you. I know.
And
but
you
it's
have legal
important
protection the minute you get onto American soil.
We try to get people in. We try to help. This is not helping. This is hindering because we're going about it the wrong way.